distributive property. And if I apply the distributive property or expand the expression like 4 times x plus 5, if I want to expand this expression, expand it means that you're going to take the 4 and multiply it to each term inside the parentheses. So you would say 4 times x plus 4 times 5. Then we simplify that by saying 4 times x is 4x plus 20. So now we have an addition statement that has 2 terms and they are unlike terms. So we have expanded that expression all we can do. If it's a negative outside the parentheses, and I gave you 2y minus 6, when we expand the expression, as they call it, using the distributive property, you take the negative 3 and you multiply it times the 2y. So we have negative 3 times 2y minus negative 3, and I'm going to put negative 3 in parentheses to keep it separated from our subtraction. So negative 3 times 2 gives me negative 6y minus negative 18. But in math, we don't like the double negatives. We know that that is a no-no. So we tend to look at a negative times a negative right here makes a positive. So we can rewrite that as negative 6y plus 18. And I know we've done quite a bit of expanding the expressions. And then we started in combining our like terms. So the other aspect of it that I want to show you is how we factor an expression. When we factor something, that means we're looking for something that I can multiply times itself to give me that. Okay, so I'm looking, what can I multiply together? We're going to use the concept of greatest common factor. What does greatest common factor mean? The largest number that will divide both terms. So we need to remember that the GCF is the largest factor that will divide two or more numbers evenly. Okay, so if I review the GCF and I ask you, what is the GCF of 12 and 20? Okay, what are my factors of 12? What times what gives me 12?
3 times 4, 6 times 2.
Okay, I have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. So what are my factors of 20? 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. Now, if you look at your list there, what is the largest factor that they have in common?
4.
Okay, so 4 is the GCF. So the GCF is equal to 4. That means 4 divides 12 evenly and 4 divides 20 evenly. You've done GCF for several years now. So you want to look at the largest factor. A factor is something that's multiplied together to give you a larger product. So now let's look at how I'm going to do it with distributive property. If I gave you this expression and I said 6y plus 15, that's an algebraic expression because it contains 2 terms and they're unlike terms because one term has a variable and the other one is our constant, isn't it? So I want us to look at the two terms, 6y and 15. Here's what I want you to do. What are the factors of 6?
1 and 6 and 2 times 3.
1 and 6 and 2 times 3. So I'm going to write them right there underneath it to show you what I'm going to do. What are the factors of 15? 1 and 15 and 3 times 5. So what number do these two lists have in common? 3. 3 is going to be your GCF. Okay? So we just found our GCF. So I'm going to write my statement now as I want to know what my GCF is, and then I'm going to multiply it times something else plus something else. So when I'm doing the factoring, I'm going to go in reverse of the distributive property. So you told me that the GCF was 3. So in the place of GCF, I'm going to put 3. Okay? Open parentheses. Now you come back and you look at your 6y and you ask yourself, 6 divided by 3 is what? 2, and I'm going to put my y with it. I keep my plus. Now I come back and I look at the 15. What's 15 divided by 3? You have now factored that expression. That's all you do to go in reverse. How can you check yourself? Can you reapply the distributive property? You can reapply. Now, I know it's the GC. I know it's factored correctly because look inside my parentheses. 2 and 5. Did they have any other number that will divide them other than 1? No. So it's finished. They're prime to each other, okay? Because there's nothing else that will divide them. So I'm finished with that one. So let's do another one. What if I said 15a plus 30? Okay, let's do our list first. Let's do our list first. What times what gives me 15? 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Okay, what times what gives me 30? 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. So the ones that I'm putting underneath are my factors, aren't they? So these are the factors of each term right here. These are your factors of each term. So in those factors, what is my greatest factor? 15. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to highlight 15 because that's my GCF. So now, since my GCF is 15, I'm going to put it outside the parentheses. I'm going to have my plus in the middle, and I'm going to close my parentheses. So now go in reverse of distributive. What is 15 divided by 15? 1, and you put your A with it right there, right? Because I'm taking this 15 and dividing them. I can't just put 1 because that first term is 15A. So I have to keep the A with it. Yes, you could just put A, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. So now take 30 and divide it by 15. So that gives you 2. So if I want to write it factored completely, I'm going to put 15 times A plus 2. Easy. Easy peasy when it's all positive. But what happens when I throw in some negatives? Why can I restate it as just A instead of 1A? Because if we don't see a number in front of a variable, what's it always understood to be? A positive 1. Okay, let's look at an example when my GCF is a negative number, okay? How am I going to do it when I have something like negative 4A minus 10? Okay. When it's a negative like this, when that lead term is a negative right here, when that lead term is a negative, this is where I want you to focus. If that lead term is a negative right there, that is an indication to you that the number outside the parentheses is going to be negative. Okay? It's going to be negative. So what we're going to do, what are my factors of 4? Just 4. Don't worry about the negative. What times what gives me 4? 1 and 4, 2 and 2. I'm not going to put any negatives with it when I do my factors, okay? What times what gives me 10? 1 and 10, 2 and 5. So what's my GCF? My GCF is 2, right? So when I come over here and I write it now, my GCF is 2, but I'm going to go back because this lead coefficient right here is negative, and I'm going to put a negative 2 right there. That's why I'm not going to worry about the negatives to do my listing. So now when you do open parentheses, you're going to ask yourself, what is negative 4 divided by negative 2? What's negative 4 divided by negative 2? Positive 2. And what's with that negative 4A? It has an A with it, so I put it back with it. Now you take negative 10 and divide it by the negative 2. It's 5. Is it positive or negative? So you put plus 5, close parentheses. Now check yourself to see if you've got the signs right. Negative 2, go back in distributive property now. What's negative 2 times 2A? Negative 4A. Negative 2 times positive 5. Does that give me my negative 10? So I factored it correctly. Okay. What if a student had left it this way? What if someone had put 2 parentheses negative 2A minus 5? Is that still correct? Check the distributive property. Tell me if it's still correct. It is still correct. They just didn't put the negative with it, did they?
So could we put that and get it back?
I think you could. So you need to be focused. It could be either way. You could see it either way. What happens with this? What if I gave you 5y plus 19? And I wanted you to factor it. Okay, so does 5 and 19 have a common factor other than 1? No. So if you cannot factor it, you're going to come back and you're going to put prime?
We did a sheet in 6th grade, and we took a yellow marker and a red marker, I think it was red, and we colored the prime ones yellow, and we colored the composite ones.
Mm-hmm. Both 5 and 19 are both prime numbers, aren't they? What if I did this? Negative 4y minus 13.
It's not possible. They're prime.
Does 4 and 13 have a number other than 1 that will divide them? No. So this one is still considered to be prime.
Doesn't matter the sign. If it's
Doesn't matter about the sign because I'm looking at the positive number first to find my greatest common factor, okay? Are we good? All right, I'm going to give you one and let's see if you can work it. So this is what you're going to do. You want the GCF, open parentheses, another term, plus or minus another term. Okay? That's the format that you're going to be writing your answer. Okay. Xander, what'd you get?
3 parentheses 1A plus 3.
Okay. Did anybody write it any differently from there? Blake?
3 parentheses A plus 3.
Okay. Which one is in the simplest form? This one right here. We don't necessarily have to put the one there. You can just write the letter, okay?
Because it's already
It's already understood to be there. The coefficient is if you don't. So